Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This CD or DVD, I'm going to make two. This one is just going to be a general presentation, and it relates to something that we've been dealing with for over 40 years. I will be leaving Washington, D.C., and I'll be going back to Oakland, inshallah, sometime during this month. And when I go back to Oakland, it's by design. When I left Oakland, it was by design. And I want to speak, especially today, to, let's call it, the Iranian community. I will probably, sometime during the end of this month, on Thursday night, that's when you have Dua Komil, I will visit out at the Saba Center. And you know what Saba Center is. It's a big, giant complex right there in San Jose. And that was a time when all the Iranians in Northern California would come to Masjid al-Islam in East Oakland. And it was a very unique time, and it was a unique place, because that was one of the first Masjid that was opened specifically based on Quran and Sunnah. And as far as the Iranian community is concerned, the first lecture that I gave that I can remember, the one that was managing the program was Javad Larijani. It was at our famous Dwinell Hall, 145 Dwinell Hall. And this talk is called The Seventh of Teer. And you all know when the 7th of Teer was. The 7th of Teer was a day that shook the foundation of the Islamic Republic. On the 6th of Teer, the Rahbar at that time, he was Ayatollah Khamenei, Hujjatul Islam. And he was blown up by a tape recorder. The reason he has a prosthetic arm in one side is because he's what we call a living martyr. He was blown up on the 6th of Teer. On the 7th of Teer, 72 high officials in the Islamic Republic was killed, was martyred. And I was asked to come to UC Berkeley a few days later and give a talk. That was one of my first main addresses to the community. And when I spoke to the people, one of our brothers told me years later how significant it was, because when I looked out in the audience, I could see the brothers on this side, the sisters over here, and I could see everybody's eyes was red from crying all night and feeling very disturbed, because now we live in the days of a semi-permanent Islamic Republic. In those days, it was guesswork, 100%. Nobody, that series of bombing was followed another series of bombings and killings from Mutahari and on and on and on. And that went on for years. And one of our brothers, who was going to school in San Francisco at that time, then he transferred up to Utah. So you'll know who I'm talking about, at least all of y'all in the Bay Area. Remember, when I'm talking about that Bay Area, I'm talking about from Sacramento, then there's Oakland and Berkeley, San Francisco, and then down to the South Bay, which is San Jose. We now have a big, huge center, the Saba Center in San Jose. In those days, we used Masjid al-Islam. And when the people in our community, knowing my history, saw, first of all, the believers is the ones that helped us buy that. Then after that, we went on the road. First, we went up the coast. We went up to Oregon, raised a lot of money, and two Iranian brothers went with myself and my son. And we went up to the first place we stopped was Eugene, Oregon. And in Eugene, Oregon, one of the brothers there was a future leader at the Daftar, the intersection here in D.C. We raised a nice bit of money there. Then we went on up to Corvallis, did real good there. Then we went to Portland, did real good there. But it was my son and myself, and it was two Iranian brothers, Brother Amir and Brother Vahid. And later on, the Saudi community told me, of course at that time I was real famous on the MSA circuit. Not MSA PSG, which I became, but the regular MSA. At that time, there was no ISNA and all that. So we did good. I thought we did so well that my son and I got in the car and we traveled all across the country, raising funds for the Masjid. Now, when we bought that Masjid with help from yourselves and others, the people in the community said, who are those guys up on the roof helping? Because, we bought an old building and we fixed it up. And I said, those are Iranians. And they said, I knew it. What the community was saying was, they had no idea. The Iranians on the roof was you guys. students, and da-da-da-da-da. But the people in the community thought they're Iranians, they're drug dealers. Because the biggest suppliers, one of the guys was so big over across the bay, we called him the Shah of Iran. They would, so when they saw y'all up on the roof, they thought I was still in business, and that they said, we knew that they didn't know y'all was 100% anti-drugs, had nothing to do with drugs. They didn't know that. All they knew was Iranians. It was so humorous. So when they thought about Iranians, they thought about this. This is not to you, this might look a little funny. Actually, this is the last stage of this. This is when I stopped, because this is it's almost clownish looking. Isn't that clownish? But in those days, it wasn't a clown. Now, this is sophisticated to me. It's the same thing. This is a black suit with white stuff on it, and this is a white suit with black stuff on it to go with the car. The same thing, it matches, all of it match. And of course there's Meek in the car too. So, and by the way, there's a car right here, right in this corner. That's a 1968 or 69 Toyota. It wasn't the first one anybody, but it was the first one I ever heard of. One of my friends had it, a sister. This is a small car, so it was considered a woman's car. And we used to call it a toy. It was almost a joke. A Toyota Corolla. Now you can't go anywhere without it. And these big Cadillacs, I'm not going to try to stick to. I'm going to just go on and talk. This thing right here has a 472 cubic inch engine. And the biggest one was 500 cubic inches. This thing has a 4-barrel carburetor. That means it has 4 jets pulling gasoline. And this thing right here, in the city, you get about 6 to 9 miles a gallon. Out on the highway, you might get 9 to 11 miles a gallon. I'm not going to go anymore. This was, of course, before the gas in those days wasn't but 30 cent, Anyway, that's that. That is a bad car. I'm showing you this so I give you the backup of why they would think. Now, this is years later, but it's only, if that was 68, 69, if that was 69 or 70, this is only 10 years later. So I've been overseas, and when I was overseas, I went to Africa, of course, and I traveled all around, and I got to know the world, but I also wind up in South America. And all of a sudden, everybody's hearing about all of this cocaine that's coming from where, of all places? Colombia. In those days, nobody ever heard of Colombia. When I heard about it, it was a government agent. I met him in La Paz, Bolivia. And he was pretending to be a hippie and everything. And he said, what you want to do? You want to go to Colombia. I got friends up there. They have horses and everything. I got friends up there, and you go up there. That's how I got to Colombia, because I was going to Peru and I would wind up in Bolivia, which is the cheapest place you could get cocaine in those days. And it was true. They said, go up to Colombia. Why? Because at that time, the United States government of America had selected Colombia as the central distribution point for cocaine from North America and the rest of the world. So what happened was this. They wanted me to go to where, this is like the gold rush in 1849. You go to Colombia, and that's going to be the new spot. They didn't say that, but that's what they were telling me. Peru, now Bolivia is landlocked. Bolivia doesn't have access to the coast, and Peru is on one coast. But Colombia has the Caribbean and Pacific coast. So they have people look like us called costinos. You saw a black Colombian, 31% or 33% of Colombians in those days was black. So if you saw one, which I didn't see many in Bogota, if you saw one, they would be costinos from the coast. Okay, they didn't deal much in drugs. Hardly at all. They were fishermen and stuff like that. Like black Caribbeans, that's what they were. Yeah. And then they had some islands, Providencia and what have you. That was the Caribbean coast. Right? That was the Caribbean coast. And so they wanted me to go to where where this stuff was just getting started. And this was going to be the new shipping zones and everything. It turned out to be true. Well, it just so happens that I went there and got busy. That's why when we opened our Masjid in East Oakland, with many of y'all's help, and they looked on the roof, they saw Iranians up there. When they asked me, who are those guys? I said, they're Iranians. I knew it. They thought I was still in the drug trade. Because remember, in those days, where did most of the drugs come from in the United States? Not Afghanistan. That was later, like now. Most of the drugs, where did the French Connection drugs came from? Turkey, right? And what's next door to Turkey? Iran. So that's where they focused on all their drugs from that part of the world. So the guy that we call the Shah of Iran that lived over across the bay was a big heroin dealer. So they thought, Big Hank is moving from cocaine to heroin, and those guys, talking about you guys, those Iranians on the roof, religious personality, everything, students, was my connections. That's what they thought. You could scrub their mind, you could shake them up, it would make no difference. They knew. I knew. Talking about I quit, I got the Holy Ghost. They knew better. They knew you guys was, remember our masjid in Oakland. For years, it was a hub for ayah. Everybody came from Sacramento. They came from San Francisco. They came from down in San Jose, and they met at our masjid. Iranians meeting in the middle of the black neighborhood in East Oakland. So that was a big show. At the same time, I'm giving lectures all over the United States. To who? The Saudis then kicked me off of their program because they said, they gave a little talk that we want you to stay away from Iranians. Because remember the first trip I went up north, Vahid and Amir went right along with us. As we went to the so-called Sunnis and everything, Vahid and Amir would also visit the Iranians, right? And said, this is our brothers. It was coordinated effort. We did good. And we raised a lot of money. We raised so much that we came across the United States, just my son and I, several trips. Because after we bought the Masjid, then we would do it raising funds for other people that had big cases and needed to go to court. Anyway, I'll get back to our point. Hopefully this will be a short lecture today. As I said, this DVD I'm going to pass out in a few weeks in front of the Saba Center. I'm going to pass it out on Thursday night, Dua Komil night. And then I'm going to come back the next Thursday night with boxes to raise funds so that when you hear this, and I'm going to make another one this Thursday, when you hear this, this is a fundraiser from you, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to bring you up on some of the things that you may have seen, but you didn't understand. So, just a little background. So you won't think that this is a new game. If you look at these pictures, I didn't show everybody this before. This is 1968. This is 1969. This is 100%. Is that a perfect Black Panther look? It's perfect. Stingy brim hat. But of course, I just have to. This is a 5-star beaver hat. It's not the Negro Panthers. This is a 5-star beaver. It's called a stingy brim. Stingy brim means the brim is small. See, this looks like 1 inch, not the big old flop down. No. It's called a stingy brim. So you may not know it, but this is kind of like high fashion. But you can see the Free Huey Newton buttons, right? Anybody that remember that time would know that's what they are. And a black leather jacket, even the dress, it looked the same as others, but it's a little bit more wealthier. Okay, that's 1968. That's at the beginning of East Oakland Enterprises. And those brothers here remember listening to, if you want to get a feeling of that period, listen to C.L. Franklin on the subject of black nationalism. Is that what it's called? The meaning of black power. Now this right here is a year later. This is reality, and this is a disguise. This is a disguise. I was happy to disguise like that. And everybody thought it was, and it's publicity. You know, I bought people a lot of Cadillacs in those days. Everybody knows it. Okay. So every time they saw either my Cadillacs or somebody else driving a Cadillac, it was thousands of dollars of free advertisement. Why? Because in the black community in those days, you talked about what happened in the black community. Black people were not on the news where you could talk about so and so. And you talked to black people was a community at that time. So you didn't open up the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times and there's black people. Oh, no. Unless they had a couple of little programs on somebody. But the black community was a black community. So the famous people in the black community, if you saw the famous black man or part of the high echelon in our community driving down the street, they would say, yeah, man, I saw so-and-so. He was driving down the street. And these big cars are nothing nowadays, but in those days, 15 years before, we were barefooted, picking cotton in Arkansas, everybody, right? Barefooted. I'll put it like, at this time, 18 years before that, I was sitting on a mule while my father was plowing in the fields. And we got our water we'd pump the water and you'd go to our outhouse and it was country living, real country living. Okay. And 15 years later, we driving the biggest things that they make with mink on and there's an H right there, by the way. That was my nickname. And people talk about Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, right here, he came to Oakland. This is when he was having a lot of trouble. I would say this is 70, or could have been, it was 1970. He was raising money. He had Wilma Rudolph and him, and they came and they gave a talk at the Oakland City College. Oakland City College was the same place where the Black Panther Party started, and it was right on Grove Street, right in the community. Now it's up in the hills, where you can't hardly get to it unless you take a bus up there. That's how white folks will do you. You got to organize right there in the community, right down the street. We're closing that down and sending it way up in the hills. Okay, anyway, that's Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali needed money in those days. That's me, of course, as part of my crew. If you could see homeboy here, I got a picture, but somebody stole it. I might be able to find it. If you saw his pocket, it was this big. Why? Because he was raising money. And we donated. We went there to help him. Okay. Of course, nobody would talk this stuff, but when Muhammad Ali died, they got crackpot Muslims from everywhere they didn't come from nobody that knew him. They didn't come to nobody that knew him. They come to people that didn't know him. And remember, all my friends are boxers too, not all of them, but many of them. So Muhammad Ali needed money. And one thing we had was big money. So we went to help him out. Here you go, champ, and that's it. We helped everybody else out. We bought people Cadillacs. Those Cadillacs were free publicity. Not free publicity, we paid for it. Why? Because every time somebody saw one of them go by, it ain't like now. Everybody got Cadillac. There's so many cars, but it wasn't like that at that time. And if we had cars, they were a little older. And a maximum of Chevy, and only preachers had new Cadillacs. And big preachers, not just a standard preacher. Yeah. There's nobody else had that in the black community. But we had them in our 20s, early 20s. We had all of that. And we believed in black power. That's what East Oakland Enterprises was. East Oakland Enterprises, look, you got to understand the United States. Martin Luther King, I don't know how I got on this subject, but I might as well keep on. Martin Luther King moved to Chicago in 1968. Why? Because he wanted to start African American economic enterprise zones. And the first experiment would be Chicago, right? That means he said, freedom, right? If you ain't got no money, you ain't going to have no freedom, right? That made sense. In fact, that was a part of black nationalism that was called buy freedom. Get rich and you buy your freedom. You don't have to ask nobody for it. How much you want for it? If you got enough money, which makes a little sense, you know. Because see, when you get big, you'll find that you on a big team. And in those days, most of the people on the big team up there were white. They were white. Okay. Now, as you move up the ladder, things look different from up there looking down than they do from down there looking up. Okay. When we got into this, now you got to remember, I'm in the early 20s, still early 20s. I mean, you know, it just coming in a hurry. So we're getting adjusted, but fundamentals we know. We want to push black pride, you know, the benefits of black nationalism and black power. Okay. So maybe your friends are not deep enough to save enough money to buy new Cadillacs. So you buy them one. You buy another one and another. And pretty soon, what are people talking about in the black community? You can go to Oakland right now and they say, yeah, so-and-so bought so-and-so a Cadillac, da-da-da-da-da-da. So say if you spent $50,000 on Cadillacs, yeah, but you got $200,000 or $300,000 worth of advertisement, right? Yeah, because everywhere they go, that's a billboard, that's a sign. You get with Big Hank, you do this, you do that, right? That's what you're going to get. And what did Negroes want? That. They didn't want other stuff. You ask them, what's the number one thing you want, Mr. Negro? I want a Cadillac. Right? You ask them that now, they want other stuff. But not then. A Cadillac. And having it newish or new, hey man, that was a big deal. So a lot of things we didn't know at that time, just like now, but some of the things we did know. And you go fishing, what do people bite at? Them Cadillacs. What do they talk about? Cadillacs. You know what we call the Cadillac that was over 2 years old? A legend. A legend. Because see, if somebody bought a Cadillac and it was a 63 Cadillac, which would have been nice, they would call it a legend. Why? Because that car been talked about so much that that's what they meant. That was the name of a Cadillac over 2 years old. So if you drove by in 1969 with a beautiful 66 Cadillac, that's a legend. It's been talked about, you know. Anyway, that's the psychic of that time. I'm going to get back to Iranians and what this means. I wanted to show this stuff and a part that we played in our community to let you know that I don't care about that stuff. I just absolutely, I don't care about being popular or being accepted. And I'm not taking it from Arabs, and nor am I taking it from you. So you understand. And I never did. I'm talking to my friends right now. It was a wonderful opportunity to have all of these things. Wonderful at an early age. when you're young, and you're okay. So you know the value of things. I just want to inform you that the best part of my life was Islam and that part of the struggle. And under all of that struggle, we were in the eyes of who are we running around with? Who's inviting us to all these universities? Say from the 7th of Teer on, Iranians. What are Iranians saying? Magbag Amrika, death to America. When I started, y'all still had all the we call them spies. They call them hostages over there. 444 days is probably the 400, 200 days when I started running around. Right? Now, what do you think the United States government is going to think about me? What do y'all think? Because I had discussions with some good friends of mine. You could tell who they were, you all from San Francisco area. Like I say, one of my good friends, he was in San Francisco, then he went to the University of Utah. You could tell he was going to the University of Utah because they had to trim their beard down. They had a peach fuzz. They had a Miami Vice little beard. You know, close shaven, because they didn't allow beards up there. Or you could wear them, but when you study, that was a rebellion amongst Mormons. And all of the sign of rebellion was those that wore beards. So if you go to Utah, you could go there now. You ain't gonna see no whole lot of people wearing. If a guy want to be powerful, he ain't gonna have no beard, cause he's a sign. Like I asked the guy at the headquarters there in Utah, around the same period, because we used to go through there a lot. They had just changed the condition of Negroes. I think now we could go to heaven, but we would be dogs with the dogs and cats, something like that. So, just like I told you about beards was a sign, this is a big sign. Remember in the Bible, Noah planted a garden, grapes and stuff in it. He drank wine and laid out on the beach naked. Ham, one son, which of course that's us, came and laughed at him. And Shem and the other took a cloth and covered their father. For that, we were cursed black. We wasn't black before then now. Don't worry about it. So I'm sitting at headquarters, and they on their job because the Persian-speaking brothers, they had a Book of Mormon in Persian, and they looked at it. They said, "Man, this is quality. This is big stuff." In other words, you could tell they got people translating it, know what they're doing. Just like if something happened in Iran, you would read the New York Times if they had something in Farsi, because the New York Times translators was better than ours, at the university. The guys running around. Anyway, let me get back to the story. So this is a symbol. This is a sign. So I asked the guy, I said, they had just started allowing blacks to join the Mormon church then. I said, "Hey, what is this? What's happening with being black?" He said, "Oh, that's nothing. It's just a sign." So I said, "What the hell is it a sign of, mister?" was a sign like beards is a sign of those guys that 50, 100 years ago rebelled against John Smith, right? We rebelled against God. We rebelled against the prophet. We laughed at him. If a prophet, can you imagine a prophet laying out on the beach naked? That's what they believe, right? That's what the Bible says. That's in the book. Okay, we don't believe it. We don't believe that this is not a prophetic behavior. Getting drunk and laying out on the beach naked. But that's okay. Remember, people got their beliefs. And this is a sign. Well, it's Ham, the children of Ham. And they're cursed. By the way, there was a lot of brothers up at the University of Utah and all that. So anyway, so I want to mention something before. Whoever undercovers the wisdom recognizes the warnings. Whoever recognizes the warnings will be cognizant of the ways of old. I read this before. And whoever cognizes the ways of old, it is as though he is among the past peoples. He is guided to that which is most upright. He sees who is saved and that which they are saved by. He sees who is destroyed and that which destroys them. Okay. So now, let me try to focus in on the historical process. Not only what the stuff means. Before that, I'd like to mention a little bit of something about tafweed. Tafweed is the delegation of affairs to Allah. And rida is when you are pleased with Allah for what you receive. Okay, I know I read these things all the time, but this thing about tafweed and trusting in Allah, they talk about faith and increases and decreases. You know, like sometimes hadith. Anybody remember those? Yeah. Okay. This tafweed and delegation increases as you move along. And it gets so powerful that you don't care what other people think. You don't care about where they coming from or who they with and how many people they got, how much money they got, how many soldiers they got. You're just not concerned about that. Because you've turned over your affairs, you've delegated your affairs to Allah. And I just want to tell you, not that I'm bragging or nothing, I did that a long time ago. When I came back to America, I came back for a reason. And when I got heavily into Islam, I realized what the reason was. And then there's also something else with it. How are you going to get to where you think we should be? How are you going to get there? All right. We went through several phases. Let's take this period back a stage or so. Let's call it during our first stage, say from 1980 up to way up, maybe even to now. And that period, that was the first stage of heavy Iman. And I mean, it was nice. And people, even I was giving khutbas in the joint because they sent me back. Yeah, I remember readers sent me back poor brother had to go back to the penitentiary for little or nothing. That's no big deal. It was good. It had to be a reason. Because when you're on the right road, you don't know what I mean. You're not asking, oh Allah, why I gotta go back? I thought I learned all of them lessons. Maybe you didn't. Because maybe you're getting prepared. If you was prepared from way back when you was a kid and they would isolate you, what are the first things? You've seen the movies. When you're bad in prison or in jail or anywhere, they send you where? To the hole. What's in the hole? You. Right? Suppose you got some kind of behavior pattern that you just goes to the hole all the time. You just go to the hole. Pretty soon you get used to going to the hole. Guess what else? You get used to being by yourself. So all the people that was coming up later on in our time, if it was the George Jacksons, if it was the Fleeta Drungles, Fleeta didn't die when he was in prison. He died out of prison, but it looks like he died of a broken heart. He was part of the Soledad brothers. Okay, so two of the Soledad brothers I knew. I didn't know John Clechetti. He might still, whatever his name. Okay, but George Jackson and Fleeta Drungole used to be my workout partner. You know, he had a burn on it. And I was speaking about Geronimo Pratt. They had a thing for Geronimo Pratt in Oakland some years ago. And I was speaking there, and they introduced me as one of the so-called such and such in the Islamic movement. So the lady behind me, she used to be married to the biggest black nationalist, Professor Googly over in so she was mostly American Indian. You know, that long black hair look. She was getting a little older. She said, are you the one? We were standing in line to go on the stage. Are you the one that they called Big Black? I said, no, they called me Big Hank, because it's a legend. See, the stuff, y'all think, oh, this brother Musa, you know, he just laying on the ground somewhere. Well, that generation, I'm talking about that generation, not the young kids and everybody running around. They don't remember. But for that generation, that went down 2 steps. The people who was there then, and then the next generation, they carried it out. They knew about it. So they talked about, that's what they talked about. Remember, the black community, they just got into this. First of all, they didn't even have blaxploitation movies till at the end of this first, end of the 60s and the 70s, and 100 Rifles with, whatever his name is, Jim Brown, and, Raquel Welch. Yeah, Raquel Welch. I saw on TV, she said, I had to say, this is my man. Talking about Jim Brown, because it's 1968. Y'all think everybody's down. The white girls run around turning flips. It's nice to be, hey, I go with niggas. They didn't do that then. She had to apologize in her own way for saying, Jim Brown, this is my man. And she's playing the Mexican. And she's Italian anyway. So what? You half black, y'all just running around talking out the side of your mouth, but they didn't see her as half black. Anyway, this was a very unique time. It was a special time. So turning your affairs over to Allah, religion, deen is evolutionary. You don't just accept it and it grows and grows. And What I'm here to say, and this is for our dear friends, our Iranian brothers and sisters out at Sabah Center. Again, I'm going to skip and go to the chase, because if I keep just ad-libbing and just scanning notes, you'll try to figure out what I'm talking about. I want you to remember the 7th of Teer. I want you to remember the person that introduced that. That was Javad Larajani. I want you to remember all the brothers and everything and sisters that were around at that time. Some of you are still here. You're over in San Jose. Some of you went back, San Jose, all over the Bay Area. I want to explain to you what's been going on over the last several years, because you have been getting the wrong information. And I could see it in your faces that y'all would have that big spaced out look, like, is this the end? Is this the... And then some of your friends, who are technically not your friends, and I know y'all are separated into different kind of crews. At that time, the line was the line of Imam. Khat al-Imam, this was the line. And nobody could say, I'm not in the line. But you got to remember, when the Shah fell, they left some people behind here in America. Who did they leave behind? Savak agents, right? And they also left behind munafiqeen. Yeah, that means some of the people that were with you then, and some of them still now, are ex-Savak agents. Yes, they are. You know they are. I don't have to tell you. Y'all know more about it than me. Within a year or two, they had integrated and evolved. I say integrated because when the Shah fell, that means Savak is finished, okay? So now they're over here and they have to reintegrate themselves into, let's call it, the FBI. So if they're agents, they don't just say, Shah's gone, it's finished. No, we're still active. And that's why in the late 70s, 80s, and all that, I used to tell y'all, don't do a whole lot of talking to the FBI. Because the FBI are trained to, they usually have two guys. One's going to talk and the other's going to observe. Yeah, one's doing most of the talking and the other's observing. He's observing. He ain't sitting there typing, but sometimes they might right? And so, and y'all wasn't skilled at that. Hardly nobody is, but I'm saying some of us that have been through, we're veterans of that system. And we have survived, which, may I say, you said, it ain't nothing surviving. It is something when hardly nobody has. Who do you know survived? King didn't survive. Malcolm didn't survive. And everybody else got killed, the good ones. The others got bought out. Some got scared out, right? That's what happened to the black movement. The same thing happened to yours in a different way. You already had Savak agents here. And Savak agents were monitoring you, MSA, PSG, and munafiqeen, right? Remember in the early years, in the late 70s, your demonstrations, when you would go there, some of the demonstrations y'all had was in conjunction with munafiqeen. because y'all were both against the Shah. But after y'all took power, pretty soon the meanness and the hatred of Munafiqeen came out. Yeah. Now you got to remember, once, it was in 86, when the Rahbar was the president, he came to the UN. So we had to have a supporting demonstration. So from San Francisco to New York, on one of them big Pan Am jets, whatever it was. Now, it was two people on that plane. It was the Muslims and the Munafiqs. They was going, as a counter demonstration, right? And the air was so thick, the poor people, the Americans didn't know. You could have lit a Mitch and that plane would have poof. And this is the first time when they served the meals, I looked at the Munafiqs and I said, they're real Munafiqs. They're eating pork. They're eating a part of the, not just to give me something else. I said, these are serious Munafiqs here. They eating pork. I mean, rubbing it all in their face. They is enjoying it. Boy, I'm telling you. That's when they serve meals on the plane. But anyway, of course they still do. You just got to pay for it. But anyway, let me get back to the point. So out of these demonstrations and everything we've been doing in America, I have 3 favored friends. You guys, the FBI, and Munafiqeen. And let's add another. The Negro imitators. I'm not going to talk about the Negro this time, but I told you, check your friends, I told y'all years ago. I said, man, them guys, they, you know. Well, why do you say that? I said, because I'm a Negro, and all they do, they think I'm just like them. Yeah, man, we going to hook these rings, we going to do this, we going to do that. And I don't say, I'm not going to do that, but I'm not going to do it. And then I tell them, they're Negroes, they're plotting to get all as much Iranian money and then to make problems for them, like, you know, in demonstrations. Like demonstration, the Quds demonstration in 84 in LA. The police, try to remember, are marching 8 deep down Wilshire Boulevard. We're going the other way. But on the other streets over here is the police. And on the other streets over there, so the police got us blocked in and 8 deep walking up and down the street with battle gear on. And the Negroes that come from up there, the phony Shias, beautiful recitation. Why they have beautiful recitation? Because they was at Baitul Deen. Y'all remember Baitul Deen? You remember the big sheikh? I said, what kind of sheikh? I'm asking the guy, what's y'all sheikh? Now, of course, they left soon as somebody got drowned in the swimming pool and all of them left. I don't say they drowned them, and the guy found out. But anyway, they came to California. They came with beautiful Quranic recitation, and I'm telling you, you brothers was smart because you had a real smart leader at that time. You just think of who it was. He went to UC Berkeley, and he was a smart guy. The leaders at that time was him and Javad Larijani. Right? Remember all those big shots? They used to come to our Masjid. Remember that? Yeah. They're all big shots now. Okay. So what does this look like to the United States government? And who do I look like? What are they going to do to me? Because remember, y'all get a chance to go home, or you can sell out, and not sell out. It's bad language. Not sell out, but kind of take it easy a little bit. And start siding with, I'm not going to get into it in detail, but the same people that had something to do with Malcolm's killing, sending him down to Mexico, when he was a teacher down there in Houston, he was sitting up and he kept talking about black, 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 and this, that, and other. And the kids in the class, one of the schools, let's call it Gonzalez School down there in Houston, I had a little team of admirers. And part of the team, it was 3 young sisters. And they would, jump up and down. Now, later on, when they was in college, I said, it's little we can't, it's something we knew, like years later, they're having a program in Texas, and here come a nice sister, and you can see it ain't no more, hi, man, Musa, jumping up and down and stuff like that. And those days is over. It's something that but I'm going to mention the guy's name later. But he was a teacher down there. And they said, Imam Musa, this guy tells us to not listen to our parents, that our parents are this, that our parents are that. You know what I mean? That's what they're telling me, what he's saying. And he's saying, black, 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 black. And I'm sitting in the class one day and he's talking all that black talk. And I remember the meeting a few years before in Oakland. And all them black tenders go out there at UC Berkeley was saying, Imam Musa, could you hook up or get married with so-and-so? We had a meeting. You can call anybody there. They was there. Sister Bahia was there. All of them was there. This Negro said, you could not melt a black woman and pour her on me. I said, good God Almighty. I mean, I'm used to people not lacking dark-skinned sisters and brothers. But to say you couldn't melt one, I hadn't heard that since Super Jahiliyyah. That was a saying, for the brainwashed that like other people. You could not melt like butter. You can't melt a nigger and pour her on me. And I was looking at them tenders. Just imagine UC Berkeley. Of course, I wasn't married at the time, and I wasn't thinking about getting married, but I was just thinking, I said, shoot, man, I could, anytime, but that's what those beautiful young black, you know how it hurt their feelings? And then he said it in a meeting, and the other Negro ladies was there. All the Negro ladies, and they was looking at this, and this guy is talking, he's that in the, when did I get suspicious? The day I saw him, because the Big Brothers was going away, and then he is just getting around Yah Hussein time. And he's draped in the flag. I said, those is what snitches do. That's what tattletales do, Anyway, I'll get into that later. When I mentioned him and I mentioned that, the Iranians down in Houston, I've been with them for 20 years by that time, they said, Imam Musa, da-da-da-da-da. And I didn't say it exactly like this. Y'all can go to hell. I don't depend on, I don't depend on y'all for nothing. This is one of the things that it takes to get through, because you got to assess what are we going to have to deal with. The good Iranians, most of them are going to go back home. The one that's kind of taking it easy, you guys that's going to hear this, and y'all are nice people. But all this stuff I've been dealing with in the last 10 years, y'all wasn't nowhere around. And then 3 or 4 years ago, the last program in San Francisco, y'all could throw a rock from San Jose and wherever else you are in the Bay Area to San Francisco, and the people in the Daftar came there and told y'all not to come. And didn't none of y'all come from the Bay Area, from that part? We grew up together. We emerged together. Y'all already know what the story is. I wasn't mad, and I'm not mad now. But I'm going to come, and I'm going to pass this DVD out right after Dua Komil. Soon, very soon. And then I'm going to come back the next week with boxes raising money. Then I'm going to pass them out again. And then I'm going to come back the following week to raise money. Why? Because no matter what you think, because I saw a lot of y'all with them questioning looks in your eyes, those questioning looks were unnecessary. Everything that's happened over the last few years is by design. Everything that's happened. And so I would say 80% of it, we managed it. 80% of what you saw or what you've seen, what you're looking at right now, that's what design fitna is. Design fitna is 11 years old. Something like that. Yeah, it's all. I have to look. Maybe not 11 years old, but it might be. Design fitna means that you're going to have fitna. Ever since I've been in Oakland, we didn't have fitna. Had fitna inside and outside, in the movement, outside, everything. So now here we are as a Muslim. We've went through several changes over the decades. So in the last few years, we had evolved. We went through strategic management under conditions of repression, and we also arrived at designed fitna. So y'all looked at the stuff we was having, and you was thinking it was real, or maybe it was affecting me. No, we designed it. We designed it. We know who we're dealing with here in America. I'm sorry. You can't see this good. Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. If that's on the outside of our building, what do you think that we think we're going to have? If you're running around for the last 40 years of more than that, talking about Margbag America, death to America, death to America. They don't know that you mean just death to the system, death to oppression. When they hear death to America, they thinking you mean death to everything we hold sacred, right? That's what they think. That's what 90% of the people think. And then here is your dear brother, right in the middle of all of this. And you got one sincere African American. And the only reason I say that is because before they realized I was sincere, they were telling me everything. Yeah, we're going to trick the Iranians. We're going to do this. We're going to get big money. I can tell you their names. I point at them. This is how we're going to do it. And I didn't say nothing till they realized after a while. But you know where those people are right now? Hugging up with you. You know where I am? Out here. And I'm happy to be here. I'm telling you. It's part of the plan. It's part of the plan. That's what tafweed is. Tafweed is when you delegate your affairs to Allah. Hey man, I don't care what y'all think. It's deep. I already been rich. Big rich. All kind of money running all over the place. And as a Muslim, we've been had nice amounts of wealth, you know. Yeah. If I wanted to retire, I could retire just here. Forget about Oakland. I could retire and sell the property around here and be just super duper. You know how much property is nowadays? Right. I don't have to come back out there and we're gonna charge him $300 million. You said them niggas is crazy. Oh, absolutely not. You done $300 million worth of damage to us. If we wasn't who we are, we would have been crazy years ago. If we wasn't who we are, we could have wanted to bomb and kill somebody in America because what the mean, low-down FBI is doing to us. And the criminal Zionists in America that now regulate the business of the FBI, right? Hey, you can see when you're doing this a long time, you could tell who's in charge. When they start doing this stuff with us on property and just don't pay no attention, just take it, just do this, just meet them there and brutalize them. That's the Zionist. Because the FBI would want to be more, well, we just kind of mouse around, we'll scare them to death, we'll do that. And the Zionists tell them it's not working. And the Zionists disregard all the issues of Ottoman deeds, right? We got the deed to the property. One of the properties was sold. The other deed, I'm arrested in that property 8 times. Do you think that I don't know what I'm doing? I go back there, arrest me again, and back there again. And they got the little things they can listen. They as soon as you get in the car, they have to put those things. So I'm talking not to them. I'm saying, hey, man, I got $10,000 in the Masjid. And they never let me go back and get property. If I'm at the front door, when they say step out, you can't go. I can't go back and get nothing. So that means where that 10,000 go? Technically, it's 11,000 because 10,000 is to pay taxes, and I got 11,000. I got 1,000 or so I carry, personal. Okay. You don't see that. That's gone. Where does it go? That's what we kept doing it for. It's on the CDs, where they have CDs, they tape, And I'm preaching to that thing. I could see it right there in front of me, and I'm preaching to it. Running the case down. Okay? When even a little bit of that shows up in the courtroom, home free. The laws that the illegal actions that the government has taken against us in Oakland, I just say what it is, it's me. They did it to somebody who could take it, who could stand it. I ain't got no extra gray hair or lost not 1 minute of sleep. In fact, if you watch, you'll see that the more dumb stuff they do, the happier I get. Think about it. When they do something stupid, I said, boy, look here, boss man, right? I'm just telling you, this is arranged. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I got 5 pages spread all around here. I will never get to them. But let me go over it again so you can understand the fundamentals. This is right at the beginning of Black Power, East Oakland Enterprises. Let's call this 1968. All right? This is 1969. Yeah. Okay. When you look out, and I'm reading all kind of books and everything and talking to the brothers, and I'm going somewhere and I look at a poster on the wall of the Soledad brothers, and I see 2 of my homeboys. And one of them was my best friend from L.A., Fleeta Drungle. We started together way back in Fred C. Neller's School for Boys, and all of that. And we was workout partners in the penitentiary, And when I came home in 65, March the 7th, it was about 1 week after Malcolm had been martyred in 65. They transferred those brothers for something happened in DVI, Dual Vocational Institution, to Soledad. And that's where, and the people that they had, W.L. Nolan. Anybody ever heard of W.L. Nolan? W.L. Nolan. W.L. Nolan was killed in the yard in Soledad in 68. W.L. Nolan is George Cooper's cousin. George Cooper's has been my best friend so it's all real close. It's all real close. So if you watch some of the old movies, they had a movie called The Mendocino Brothers. It wasn't real, but it was kind of like, did you see that? What's the name had that movie? What's the lawyer guy used to come? Yeah. He said he was going to do all this stuff for us. Now he didn't become a Shiite. Not that I support Shiism, but he didn't become one, and he don't come here. He don't talk nothing. And he acts funny. That's okay. No problem. Let me say again, none of this is no problem. Because we made a decision years ago. This gets you killed. This gets you killed. This is what they want. Now, this is exaggerated. So we know what the white man wanted the niggers to do, so we stretched out on his behind. It's called overdoing it. Well, the Negro didn't call it overdoing it. They said, that's bad. Woo-hoo. So when we drive by, he got mink in it. He got 11, people that had them little rabbit ears for TVs that didn't have no TV on it or nothing. And then they had phony telephones. My telephone had 11 channels. I could be in Arkansas and punch a button and I could get the mobile something or other. Yeah. So anyway, these are strategic moves. It's strategic. So that means 50 years ago, I have to be thinking about what's going on around us. I have to be thinking about it. And I said, it's not that I hid the buttons, but I just covered them up. And Black enterprise, you need to advertise. How you going to get people to support your Black enterprise thing and make them believe they can do anything? Buy them all Cadillacs. If you spend $50,000 on Cadillacs, which you could get, a lot of Cadillacs at that time for $50,000, or 60 or 70,000. You get 10 times that much, you get millions of dollars in free advertisement every time the Cadillac goes by, right? Everybody talk about it. When they talk about it, man, that's Mellow Mike. Big Hank bought that Fleetwood Brougham. So Big Hank automatically, right? Big Hank is pushing this and pushing that. And you can do anything. You can be big as you want. This is America, and we gonna get our share. Black people. Other people didn't think like that. Buy niggas Cadillacs? I didn't know nobody did. I don't know that. I don't know nobody. I just didn't. Especially big ones like the most expensive ones. And you 22 years old or something like that. I don't know. Free publicity. Free. Not free. You pay. Well, how much money would you have to pay the Oakland Tribune to put your picture in the paper and do this and do that? And it's only there once. Every time that car go by, everybody stops. See, they don't do that now. Stop, and they talk about that. When they talk about that, then they talking about East Oakland Enterprises. It's an economic enterprise zone. If you think I'm lying, you go to Oakland and talk to the old people about how was Oakland at that time, what was going on. Number one, it wasn't no killing. Didn't allow no killing. Niggas can't run around. They can shoot niggas all they want now. They couldn't do that then, right? They couldn't because why you want to do that, right? And East Oakland Enterprises, it was different. See, they had big niggas around Oakland, Ward brothers and all of them. But they didn't think like that. When they got money, they got it for themselves. When we got money, it was for everybody. Why? There's so much money here. What are you going to spend with it? Right? And all those big people, I saw Philmo Slim on TV the other day. Philmo Slim, boy, I'll tell you. Philmo Slim was a big pimp. And all the big people was from the South. The Ward brothers was from Alabama. Philmo Slim was somewhere down there in Texas. Because they come out there and it's like they got big. All the big people in the North and the West was from the South. The baddest ones. Anyway, so I want you to think about advertisement. What does advertisement do? It produces a consciousness in the mind of the people to repeat whatever. If Friday's friendly skies of United is repeated over and over again, right? So if you want to drive the friendly streets of Oakland in a Cadillac, you get joined up with Big Hank. He's right down there, his big record shop right there on the street, right in the middle of where everybody's going, right? Free advertisement. Free. And every time they shoot down the street, and don't have them all parked all out in front of the place at one time, that's all the people talk. Man, that's all them Cadillacs. See, now it's hard to think that the Cadillac used to be known as the Negro heaven. I'm telling you, it was big. You said that's a myth. It ain't like, yes, it was. Negroes did not dream about fairy tales. They dreamed about Cadillacs. And if they got a Cadillac, where was they at? Heaven, Heav, however it spelled. Heaven. Firdaus for Negroes. It's the Firdaus for Negroes. I'm telling you, I know you can't believe it because everybody got cars now, And you see somebody with an Escalade, you don't say, ooh, but niggas in them days, oh, man, I saw the baddest ride I ever seen. And, oh, man, because we just got from the country week before last, barefooted, the niggas just left the country and they couldn't talk out of the side of their mouth to white folks. We drive up to white folks, them big pretty cars, white man driving around and he's got his car full of kids and a station wagon. And we turn and look at him and look at his car and look at his kids. They said, Daddy, that nigger is, look at that nigger. And we just look, we ain't saying nothing. Just what you doing, that old pole raggedy, all them kids hanging out of the pole crackers, stuff like that. I wouldn't do it down south, but I mean out there, shoot. I mean, it was, because you're young and stupid. We wouldn't do that now, insult people and what have you. But the point is, and look, when they had Muhammad's funeral, they didn't have nobody there that he really knew or cared anything about it. Definitely wasn't nobody there that hooked him up. So if you come through in the 60s and you ain't having no money and you knock down $10,000 or $12,000, that's not bad. In those days, it's like 120,000 now, right? That's a little bit of money. And Negroes just roll up, champ, and then go on about their business. Hey, you won't see us saying, well, let us come there and do the janaza. We don't do that. Because that's not what you're going to get you into heaven. Eventually, if you live a certain type of life, you begin to thank Allah. Boy, I'm really thankful about this, because even when I was being punished, nigga had to, he was nice. Shoot, other people get real punishment. I'm punished with, other stuff. So you say, thanks Allah for just, even the punishment was something or other. Good. It was what everybody else, you got plenty of everything else. That's why we could sleep on the floor and do whatever now, because we done already tried that. And it ain't nothing like this. That's what we want. I'm going to wrap it up because this is supposed to be to the Iranians. Y'all don't know nothing about all of this. But I'm going to say something that y'all will know about, and then we'll make another one Thursday. But here's what we want you to do. We're speaking strictly right now to Saba Center. And that's a big show. It's a big show. And I know y'all been kind of hiding a little bit. And so there's one Iranian sister that's a probation officer. No. She's a lawyer. A lot of them are lawyers now. But this one was taking all kind of pictures of all of this stuff and all these articles and, stuff like that. That's a bad view. That's a sharp boy there. You got to admit, it probably don't look like much now. That was bad. Big H there. That was bad. Mink all inside. What else you going to do? You couldn't get no better. This is our special friend. This is Niagara Falls. This is Javad Larijani. That's the head of the UN at that time. This is one of the most famous Ayatollahs right here, right there. That's Sheikh Safarazi. And this is Hussein Nadari. After he was one of y'all know who Hussein Nadari is. At the Daftar, several years ago, they know who your friends are because they was all doing what y'all is doing. Hussein Nadari is, so he's what? Well, he's with Ahmadinejad. I said, so what? Well, you know, if Ahmadinejad got these ideas, he's got them too. I said, y'all is crazy. Y'all is crazy. And I tell them that now. And I told them the same thing when they come out there, and about 4 years ago when we had the last program that I was at in San Francisco. And all the Daftar comes out there, and nobody from San Jose, right down the street, nobody from the Bay Area comes. Why? Because they've been told not to come. Okay. Brothers and sisters, we've been through a lot together. We've been through a lot together, and it's just beginning. Except in the old days, we was by ourselves. We was by ourselves. Nobody was with us. Okay. And we held on, and we held out. And now, the Islamic Republic, I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's shining like new money. They just had something over there the other day, 2-3 days ago, where Iran invited all the people in the area, right? And plus Russia and China. And I was listening to it because they had the whole program, you know, and you listen to it over and over again. And they laid it out. So right now, they can't use Afghanistan against Iran, right? They won't be able to use because Iran and put a freeze and put a block with everybody else watching on them using Afghanistan to fight Iranians. They can't do it. Look, Iran, when they got rid of you know who and the last crew, even they was getting sharp. The Iranian politics, not politics, that's local, but the Iranian strategy is brilliant and is working. Before, we was all by ourselves. Now, everybody that's fighting is on our team and ain't nobody losing, and they getting whooped to death. But Iran is sending them oil and gasoline and heating oil, right, to Syria, then to Lebanon, right? All these drones and new magic, this, that, 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 of course the Yemenis hooked it up themselves. We know that, right? All I'm trying to tell you, you should be proud of, you should be ecstatic about, please don't tell me about so-and-so's a crook and so on. You can't get a government without some crooks and some thieves. This is not heaven. This is people. Right? This is people. I'm telling you, remember when y'all used to ask me, Imam Musa, what are we going to do? That's because I was years ahead on the politics, American politics, African politics, the whole of what they're going to do, their pattern of behavior. But Iran has been to school, and nobody gets a chance to go through big politics and then pull out. They put them in the expediency council so they can that's where Ahmadinejad is. When our brothers are so divided on issues, if you got one dumb group of people saying, we don't believe in walayati faqih, well, keep it to yourself, right? Keep it to yourself. Because guess who? Well, boss man will use you, and which they are doing. Do you know all around here that you can throw a rock? There's an island live right up the street on Queens Chapel. Used to be called it the Hostro, but I mean, it's okay. I know it don't have nothing to do with him. That's what it was, right? Sure it was. It's right there. You can throw a rock at it. As we talking, and they didn't move him over there so he'd be close to me. Do you want me to teach some classes at your Masjid? No. All of them from Dar al-Hijra, do you want us to teach Arabic? No. And I told them, whatever y'all got, I don't want it. Our people had that. I don't want them to. Y'all are scared nigga to death. Scare all the fire out of him. Scare him. He'd be running around ducking behind bushes and everything. We don't want that around us. If niggas get scared, let them get scared themselves. I'm scared. But not have professional fear spread to our people. Anyway, design fitna. We designed our own fitna, and we trapped boss man, and I'll tell you about it later. Or y'all have a little program, I'll come to it. We have trapped the system. Y'all looked at me, and here's what you was thinking, poor Imam Musa, and you hear about all the news. They doing this to him, they doing that, and if we get around, we're going to be in trouble. That ain't what's been happening. Yes, they do that stuff by our design. If they sold a property, we sit right in their ear whispering, yeah, man, they're going to sell our property. Man, they're going to sell our property. They're going to sell our property. And then they sell it. That's Baba Kloon. Okay, and anyway, and everything else they do, right? Anything else they do, I'm just telling you. After 50 years, you're not going to get no sense at all. Not 50 years of watching TV and having a little struggle here. No, I'm talking about 50 years in the midst of it. You're going to smell fitna. You're going to taste it. You're going to know what to do. You're going to get it over and over and over again. So you don't even have to look at the people about what it is. You know what it is. That's what we're dealing with right here. Okay. So we're coming back to Oakland. In a little while, I'm going to teach y'all what psychological guerrilla warfare is. We've been doing it all the time. Psychological guerrilla warfare. When you look at us, you think that we have been defeated. We haven't been defeated. We've been telling them what to do. Stab me here, stab me here, stab me there. And you don't see no result. Oh, they stabbed me, right? Or, where is everybody at? Ain't nobody here. The people is gone. You don't see me running chasing them. Tell the truth. I ain't run down and chase nobody. Man, why you leave, man? Why you go, you leave? You know you leave. It didn't mess up everything. You ain't seen none of that, and you ain't heard none of it. Goodbye, dear believers. Goodbye. I mean, we don't say that, but that's what we mean. Or, I went to school to be a lawyer to help you, and then they come by and acting stupid. And we said, nigga, what's wrong with you? You sat around here for 15 years talking about, forget about Whacking Nut and all that you work for, and we know if you work for Whacking Nut, you're going to be cut. Good God Almighty. I don't know what's wrong with people. People don't think. I mean, I don't know what they think, but they're not thinking. This is just our opinion. So, we went through this before. Returning to Oakland, remember Imam Hussein in America. You talk about you have Arbaeen and you celebrate Imam Hussein. Well, what about if you got an Imam Hussein type in Oakland who could stand all the fitna, all of this, that, and other, and still on a roll? Fainted incapacity, that's when you pretend you walking with a crutch and a limp. Oh, I can't hardly walk. Fainted incapacity. You're pretending that you don't have the ability to do nothing hardly. You just say, oh, it's so hard to get up and walk down the street. Fainted incapacity. So when you look at us, don't underestimate us. If you do, you've made a big mistake that you fell in the trap that Boss Man did. Boss Man did, and then Boss Man tripped into the hole, and Boss Man drug all the Zionists with him. Yeah, we know who we've been messing with all along. And the worst thing for Zionists is for you to make a fool out of them and laugh at them. Well, that's what we're doing. You're a bunch of dumb Zionists, and you can't whoop nobody. And I want you to understand that we're not going to whoop them like a whipping, like with a switch or nothing. But we're going to psychologically whoop them people till they're going to, why do you think Boss Man is acting a fool like he is? And he don't make no sense. Because he's getting whooped. He's getting whooped. What he did to us, trying to make us get incoherent, where you make your own mistakes. Remember in crime, the government been pressing you, so you say, one more robbery, right? And Bonnie and Clyde is finished. All the time. That's kind of true. Because you're exhausted of wealth, you're exhausted and I'm going to get one more robbery, then I'm going to move to California, we're going to raise children and everything, and the guy gets killed. Him and the girl, both of them get killed. Bonnie and Clyde, they both dead, right? Because they can't think ahead. They don't think ahead, that's all. Boss Man can't do that to us. Boss Man had it easier back in these days because we're first going through it. That's over 50 years ago back. And we maneuvered out from the jaws of the lion then. So what's going to happen between then and now? You just have to think, okay? Don't worry about it. I'm just saying. Okay, let me move toward a close. Yes, we're going to pass out DVDs. Don't underestimate us, and don't underestimate Boss Man. Because Boss Man, all the stuff you're doing, he helped plan that, and you fell right along with him. Sometimes we go along with Boss Man, and sometimes we don't. We more or less, I guess, what did we call it? Boss Man on the line? When you get a fish on the line? That's what we do. You said, nigga, you're going crazy. Well, if I'm going crazy, everybody else is going with me because I have not pushed the button and killed 7 or 8 children, and the other people are belonging to the family, and they are all our allies instead of our, right? Yep. I ain't been hanging on no helicopter trying to leave. You got to move me back to California. Like I have to go back now because time tells you, okay, there's nothing else to do here for right now. There's nothing. Oh, sure, we got things to do, but now it's time to go back there. Why we didn't go back before? Because it wasn't time. There's a guidance mechanism that's saying this is the time to go and this ain't the time to go. That's why we waited and waited. Think about last year and other time. Something is going on. So, but then they martyred Soleimani. We said, that's what we was waiting on for then. Then they come up with the virus. Then they, so we said, oh, don't worry. We're going back. This is not MacArthur, I shall return and all that, but this is kind of like that. We're not going back with a big army. We're going back with us. And that's enough. I'm telling you, that's enough. Why is it enough? Because we have more credibility than the whole United States government because we've been right more than they have. Is that halfway true? We've been right almost all the time, and we've never compromised any principle. They compromise all their principles. They run off and leave everybody that's their friend, and they get stupid. Can't nobody, they can say, I ain't going over there, Imam Musa, he's a Shiite. They can say stuff like that. That's dumb. But they can't say, Imam Musa just act stupid, man, and he did this, and he can't say that. We say that about boss. Boss man's a fool. And it's going to get, the worst is yet to come. You think you laughing now? You wait. Boss man, you're going to say, that's not boss man. Boss man, that ain't you. You know, when a guy's big rich and he go broke and then he's run off chasing his woman and doing this. Said, Big Johnny, that ain't you. Well, that's what they're saying. Boss man, that ain't you. Okay, so I didn't overtalk myself and it's getting dark. So I want to thank y'all. And I also want you to go down and talk to remember the young ladies working the probation department. When I had this other case and that I won, and they were sending everybody in the probation department, the legal department, they would send them in shifts. And I said, who's all these people coming, sit and watch it? And then all these articles and pictures, she's Persian, so she reads Persian and everything. And we would talk about so I had a picture, I haven't seen it in a while, a picture of, what was the last president? That guy Rouhani. So she said, oh, they saw this. And they taking pictures. I mean, she's taking, these close-ups where they can read it and all this stuff. And they're taking pictures of all these articles. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is a Negro, which you haven't seen, on the front page of the main political newspaper in Iran. Of course, I haven't been back since, and I ain't in a worry. But all this way is detailed. It's detailed. This is a line. This is a headline. All of these are telling, this is what you do. Right? It's not and I gave it in English. They liked it, so that's what it said. Walayati Faqih is a protection against global arrogance. You can't read it all, but you can see Walayati Faqih. You can see that. Wilayati Faqih. Right? You can see that. Fitna. Fitna. Well, fitna. It's a protection against global fitna. I haven't been back to Iran since. Yep. Because we got all kind of friends, but we also have enemies in high places, and they work with each other with detail. They're ex-Savakis and all of that. And you see them, and they don't report on nothing that would help us. They don't do nothing that would help us. And they said they love us. They started out with us. A bunch of jive. Okay, let me finish up. It's dark already. Okay, economic enterprise zone. We talked about that. Lessons learned. We don't have. It's too many lessons learned. Okay. We talked about 1981, and you saw the pictures of Brother Javad, and you know all of that. Brief history of our relationship. Okay, I wander a little bit, so I'll go over that in a couple of days. So maybe Thursday we'll do another one. And I promise to be more specific and not travel around the world. Well, I'm going to try, you know what I mean. Okay, brief history of our relationship. I'm thankful for our relationship. I'm not sad about it at all. But here's what y'all do. You get together when I come and put the DVD out. You either get together a bunch of support, and that'll be it. You don't have to stand in line and do a demonstration and get heat on you because y'all done got a little older. I guess y'all be in your 60s now. I ain't old. But the late 50s, 60s, so now, you know, all your kids have graduated, just all your kids have graduated from college. You don't have to protect them anymore. And they're lawyers too, and a lot of that. Can you imagine all of your kids are lawyers and stuff and all of that? You could have sent one of them to help, but the one that I knew, that they told she stopped answering the phone. I said, okay, forget it, no big deal. I'm talking about friendly folks. So y'all gonna have to figure out how you gonna help Imam Musa maneuver through this. If you do, it'll be great. If you don't worry about it. Let me say it again. If you do, it'll be wonderful. If you don't, that'll be wonderful too. Yeah, I'm not mad at nobody. I like everybody. But y'all could have came out much sooner and you knew what you was doing too. And you know them little mealy mouth ulama running around, you know. We did better when they wasn't here, when the brothers handled everything. Tell the truth. So psycho guerrilla warfare. Tawsiya bit-taqwa. If anybody don't know what the tawsiya bit-taqwa, to urge people towards taqwa. Tawsiya bit-taqwa. And ethics. That's what I've been trying to do, to talk to y'all about ethics and morals. Okay. The last thing I'm going to say is I do want y'all to be a part of this. But if you want to stay out there and hide in San Jose, hide. I'm not being arrogant, but you got to remember we're here now. It's not arrogance, but we are here now. Technically, it's Allah and ourselves. It ain't because nobody helped it, and nobody helped nothing. When I say nobody, that's what I mean. Nobody has joined to be able to see this is what's needed, and they do it. They do something, but it ain't that, you know. So it's Allah, it's Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and it's this wonderful history. That might be the way it's hooked up, that it's not supposed to be a team effort. It could be. Some people it was individual efforts, and that's the way it is. It ain't no big deal. But I'm not asking you, I'm suggesting. Suggest and think of all the fun we had when we was younger. All the mean old white folks trying to finish us off and put us in jail and run us around the corner and stuff. Now, I guess to you that wasn't fun. It was exciting, though. How much excitement y'all had here recently? Are you afraid of shadows and loud noises and stuff like that? Huh? Tell the truth. I'm not. You could holler all night long. You could bang in the building. You can do anything you want, and I'd probably still stay asleep. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you. It is possible. The war that should be fought here and the way it's being fought, that was our job. It wasn't a job of having a big army of great Muslims and we marched down together. No, it couldn't have been the purpose, or else that's what would have happened. The purpose was to sell wolf tickets to longevity. We've already done it. Now, suppose we get the other end, the icing on it. We say we want to live to be 100. Now imagine me 100 years old talking this same trash at about 80% of what I'm. Boy, and then boss man won't be where he is now. If he's up here coming down, boss man will be, suppose he's even lower than us. And he's not moving down slowly. He's accelerating, getting faster. And I got to close with this. Look what the Islamic Republic, you think it ought to be doing this and ought to be doing that. The Islamic Republic all by itself. Remember in the early days, we was by ourselves. Not now. There's Yemen, and they taking a brutal whooping, fighting. They're not getting whooped, they're fighting. Lebanon. Iran just and all this stuff and getting that. Look what Iran looks like and everybody else. And Syria. And now we got the godless commies on our side. The godless commies, never forget the godless commies. We got what used to be the Russians, they was godless commies then. Now they miscellaneous people, right? And the Chinese Reds, y'all don't remember the Chinese Reds, but I remember the Chinese Reds. It's the Chinese Reds, that's what they was called. The Chinese Reds. The Chinese Reds is whooping boss man so much that he can't see straight. So remember when you start getting whooped, your vision started. You're getting hit up here, blood is coming in your eyes, right? Your vision go. Then you're getting hit in the nose, you can't hardly breathe because stuff inside starts swelling up. You start breathing with your mouth open. Then the teeth get knocked out. I'm telling you, boy, it's not fun. I'm telling you, I would rather be me than boss man. Anytime. I would not want to be boss man. And the Zionists, they're going to get a special whooping. Yes, they are. You can say what you want. They're getting it now. Getting close. Thank y'all very much. And remember, I'll be out there in a few weeks. And I'm going to put 2 CDs. This will be called CD number 1. And I'm going to put another one in there. We might do Thursday. It'll be called CD number 2. I'm going to try to be more guided, but that's not working for me. Guided and specific. You know. I'll close with this. At the University of Kansas, one of the brothers, when I used to do a lot of speaking, he took a speech class and he played one of my lectures in the class. This is maybe 30 years ago, at least 30 years, maybe probably 35 years. So the professor told him that that's a special way of speaking that he does. He's talking about me. That he goes, makes the point, and then goes all around the world and brings all kind of things into it, and he comes right back to the point. I was doing that a few months back, and I got out there. I said, where in the hell am I at right now? You know, I said, maybe it's time. So you fiddle around, and you say, oh, okay. Then you get back. So, whew, that was, you know, but I'm saying, that's the way you bring social events, psychological events. The white folks, they get a thing and they give good lectures. They start talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. So thank y'all for bearing with me. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Are there any questions or comments? Nothing today. That's fine. Okay.